here we go. It's the Kopite podcast.
Hello, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Kopite podcast. I'm Matt, joined by Mick, Dan, and Tim. How are you guys? Mick, I'll go with you first. How are you?
All good, mate. All good.
Yeah,
all
Tim.
Good.
Not too bad myself, mate. Not too bad myself.
And Moxon.
All fine, except my internet's terrible. So if I just go in the middle of nowhere, then that's why that is.
Well, we're back with part 2 of the little Klopp transfer review, and we'll get started right in, because number 1 is none other than, well, this is number 24 actually, but number 1 for today is a certain Mr. Virgil van Dijk. I'll come to you, Mick.
Number 24. I thought he was number 14 or 13.
Yes, he's number 30, 14. He's number 14. He is
26 in total, isn't it?
It's shocking. Jesus.
Welcome to this amateur production of the Kopite podcast.
Okay, now. Do you want to start again, Matt? Do you want to start again? Should we just go off and then come back on again? Or...
Talk about Van Dijk. Go.
What can you say? It should be the longest one, but it's got to be the shortest one, because there's no words to describe the sexy beast, really, is there? Apart from he's just absolutely transformed us into what we are. In majority, his arrival was the catalyst for everything. Like scoring on your debut, everything he's won with us, the fact that he's the best in the world, the fact that he's now injured and we're having to suffer without him, highlights how much we rely on him. That's, yeah. Virgil van Dijk, he's just an absolute legend already, and he's only been here 3 years.
Yeah. Anyone say anything else, Tim?
I mean, the biggest compliment you could pay to a player, I think, is already giving him that he's an all-time great kind of player. And I know that he'll probably add stuff to his resume as he goes along to cement that. But in terms of his pure ability to play football, it's hard to think that there's been a more dominant centre back that's played. You know, he's 6'4". You know, he's 90 odd kilos. He's as quick as any striker on the planet, as dominant as in the air as anyone. You know, he's a goal threat for corners. You know, he's got a long ball in his game. He's got a short ball. His touch is impeccable. You know, is like Mick says, you can't really say much about the guy because you watch him play and you struggle to find words to describe just how good he is. So, yeah.
Moxon, can you try to find another way to describe Van Dijk?
Yeah, it's hard to say something that hasn't already been said about him, because it's everyone just knows now at this point. There is no denying it, no matter who you support, that Van Dijk is just the ultimate standard of defender, just as an all-round defender. And obviously his defensive attributes are huge, but one thing I would say is that since he's been out, one thing that Liverpool, I think, have really missed this season is how he starts attacks from the back with his vision, with his long passing. And starting there, because the build-up feels a lot slower. Joe Gomez is really good at it as well, which is why the both of them being out, which is why I think is part of the reason why at the moment we are struggling to build from the back a little bit, because even though Matip's great, he's not necessarily quite on the same level as those two in that. And again, the young lads, Williams and Phillips, they're not necessarily ball-playing central defenders. So I feel like the fact with how much we've missed that attribute of Van Dijk, that just shows one more area in which he's just so important to Liverpool.
Completely agree. I mean, I can't say anything more, so I'll just go around the group and ask for a memorable Van Dijk moment. Mick, come to you first.
How long have you got? Fucking hell. Come back. I'll go at the end. Let me just have I forgot we did this. I'll have to have a think right there. I'll go last.
Tim.
It's hard to pick out one. I mean, the first few that come to mind are the goal against Man United, the headed goal. God, you know, he's had so many the goal on his debut against Everton, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, one that stands out to me and that always makes me chuckle is the after the goal against Tottenham, hoofing the ball out of the stadium. It's one of my favourites.
Yeah. Moxon?
Again, yeah, it's hard. I mean, the goal on his debut against Everton, I mean, what better way to endear yourself to your new fans than to score in the derby. But, I mean, even now, I think the most iconic moment of because it's not really a moment person, he's just amazing all the time. So I think one of the most iconic pictures now, if you think of Van Dijk, you just think of him holding the shirt next to the Christmas tree after we'd announced him signed. He's just, it's whenever you sign someone for 75 million, I think there's always going to be the worry of, oh, is he going to live up to the price tag? I know any big signing we've had over the last few years, there's always that seed of doubt in the back of your mind, except I think for Van Dijk. I don't know what it was. I think even seeing the price tag, as soon as we signed him, I thought we've got someone special there.
Okay. Well, I'll do mine before I go back to Mick. I think for me, not including the ones you said, is the Champions League final when Son burst through on goal, and a small part of me went, uh-oh. And then Van Dijk just sort of just turned it on and just breezed past him and just shoved him in. Just, no, we're fine. I think that's my key Van Dijk moment. But now I'll circle back to Mick.
I'll echo all them, and I'll also raise the Bayern goal.
Okay.
What a goal! Like, it just that was just typical Van Dijk, just unbeatable in the air, and like just love when he scores goals and the celebrations. And I think that didn't he score 2 against Brighton as well? Was it Brighton?
Yeah,
it was one. But yeah, so many. But yeah.
Speaking of him in that Bayern game, well, there was that angle of that pass that he played. What a pass that was!
Unbelievable.
So we saying flop then, yeah.
The
next up, maybe a bit of a debate around this one, is Naby Keita. 52 million from Salzburg. He joined the year after he signed. Took the number 8 from after it'd been vacated by Stevie G. Set the world alight in the Bundesliga, but hasn't exactly done so at Liverpool. He has injury trouble. Yeah, he's played well. He's played well when he's had his stints in. But what are we saying? Has Naby Keita fulfilled what we thought he was going to do? I'll come to Moxon first.
I mean, I think we have to be honest and say no. But it's not necessarily through fault of his own, because we all know that he's a supremely talented midfielder. In fact, in terms of raw talent, now that Thiago's joined, probably Thiago is the most talented midfielder we have. But in terms of raw talent, if you take Thiago out of the equation, Keita's probably next in terms of his actual footballing ability. But it's obviously his injury worries and the fact that he hasn't been able to be on the pitch and stay fit and put a run together to show that ability. I don't think anyone can say that he's been a success, which is sad, really.
Moxon. Mick?
Yeah, I don't think he's kind of middle road for now. Like, I think someone just said there, Silverhoff, would you prefer to sell Naby, lad? I think it's a bit premature to be thinking about selling him yet. I think maybe another year, because I think is he 26 soon, so he's getting to that age where we need him on the field. Like, and when he does play, he's great, but it's just there's too often where I think it was the Leicester game where he was great 60 minutes, then he gets injured. And it's just that's been the story of his career. He builds himself up to the level where you're like, right, this is Naby Keita we want to see every game. Then he gets an injury, and then he's out, and then we're waiting for him to come back again. And it's just this vicious circle constantly that we're just waiting for Naby to come back. He plays well for a couple of games and gets injured again. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's either yet. He's middle road. It's still up for debate on that one. But I pray to God that he can sort himself out and get a run of games together, because when he performs and when he's on top form, he's one of the best in the league for me in terms of ball progression and carrying the ball from deep and picking passes out. Yeah. He's one of the best in the league at that. So I just pray to God he can improve that injury record.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Naby Keita, especially when he gets a few games under his belt. You can see the progress that he made, and he's good on the ball and he gives us something extra in midfield. But we haven't, if we're being honest, we haven't seen the Keita that we bought from Leipzig. And due to that, I mean, I wouldn't call him a flop because he certainly hasn't flopped, but he's probably one of the more floppish signings that Klopp has made recently, I'd say. What do you think, Tim?
I'm not sure you can call him a flop yet, because he's still a part of the squad, and he still shows that when he is on the pitch that he belongs in the Premier League. He belongs as firmly in our starting 11 as anyone, really, because again, he's another guy that gives us something different. Yeah, he's had a rough time with injury. I mean, but then again, he's 26. As Mick was saying, he's going to be 26 soon. You know, you normally enter your prime as an athlete going into your late 20s, early 30s. So, you know, I think hold on to him until the end of his contract. I don't see the point in selling him at this stage. You know, he's shown that he can play and that he will be a valuable part of this team. So no, I wouldn't call him a flop yet. I think he's been an unfortunate signing at best in terms of how negative it's been. But again, he's shown his talent. He's clearly able to play football at this level, and he fits into Klopp's system as well. It's not like he's come in and it's not really worked out. So yeah, I still think it's a good piece of business.
Oh, I hope it turns into that. I mean, I'm only looking at it specifically from the transfer fee that we pay, but at the end of the day, it's not my money, so I don't really care. I'm looking at it. Now, in terms of a nabby moment to remember, two for me stick in mind. It's the goal against Chelsea last year where he leathers it top corner. Wow. And I think he opened the scoring against Monterrey in the Club World Cup, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Anyone think of anything else?
I was going to say Chelsea goal. So you've robbed that one off me.
Yeah. Tim, Moxon?
Chelsea goal, but also I think he scores. I don't know if it's 100% sure this is right, but I'm pretty sure that goal he scored against Huddersfield, it was only something like 15 seconds into the match. Yeah, I think it was one of, if not the quickest Liverpool goal in the Premier League era. And it was right in sort of a period as well where he'd actually managed to make sort of like get on the pitch for a few games running, and it was starting to look like he was going to start putting a bit of a run together and actually, you know, establish himself in the team. Obviously that never quite came to pass, but yeah, that was probably the best run that Keita's had in the side.
Yeah, I mean, his first or his second game where I think he picked up the ball kind of on our left, kind of like towards our area on the left, and he went past a couple of guys. I remember then thinking, oh, we got a bit of a special player here. You know, he's clearly comfortable and he can go around pretty much anyone by the looks of things. I think he nutmegged the guy and then sent the guy the wrong way or something along those lines.
Was that Bournemouth away, was it last year, I think?
Was it last year? Yeah, so something along those lines. I can't remember, it was earlier on.
Was it the 3-0 at Anfield where he just absolutely bossed the game? Was it that one?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was that game, because I remember watching that game and going, this guy is a serious talent. But yeah, I mean, other than that, the first thing that pops into my head is the Chelsea goal, which was a cracker.
Yeah, there's a guy on Twitter who does quite good. I think his name's Nenad. He does like good stats and stuff. And he's done like a graphic of the best of the league of assisters to the assisters. So like in terms of the final ball before the assist's made, and Naby Keita was third in that, I think, in the league. Yeah, which is like is good considering how much he's on the field, really.
I mean, I like him when he plays. I'm excited to see, because I remember Klopp saying when we signed Keita that it was either Keita or Thiago that he rated as the two best midfielders in the world, and he managed to get one. And now we've got both. And if we can get Keita back to Leipzig levels, playing alongside Thiago, who we will come to, then that excites me. But he was so good at Leipzig that although I'm excited when he gets on the pitch, I'm still always left like, oh, if you can just turn on what you did in Germany, then you're going to be unstoppable.
Well, yeah. Well, that Chelsea goal he scored, that was the most synonymous with that Leipzig thing. I think the way he just blasted through, belted the top corner. Like when you watch them for Leipzig, that's what he seemed to do all the time. Just blast his way past people and just rocket one bottom corner or top corner. And that's like, we need to see more of that.
Hopefully he gets the chance now. I mean, Klopp's shown recently that he's not rushing players back, as we've seen with Thiago. So fingers crossed that he gets fit and stays fit. But next is it's come to be known as Henry the Hoover. It's probably as important and definitely showing his worth now as Virgil. It's Fabi. And I'll come to Tim this time. He signed him 2 years ago now, 43.7 million, kind of out the blue following Kiev. Literally no rumours, no nothing, and all of a sudden there's a picture of Fabinho signing a Liverpool contract. How did you react?
Yeah, I was surprised. I'd never really seen him play. Never really heard much about him. I obviously on the breaking news, I realised like he played for Monaco and stuff, and that he was a key part in their midfield. But I thought he was going to be a backup. I didn't think that he was going to come in and essentially stamp his mark on the Premier League. He's been, for me, I mean, he's one, been consistently on the field, and two, he's been the best centre defensive midfielder I've seen playing in a system for a long time. I think that his ability to recycle play is unbelievable. He has like a nose for the ball that when a team clears across or, you know, a keeper throws it out, it lands at his feet every time. And I think that's actually something that we're missing in our midfield at the moment is really keeping the pressure on teams and pressing them into their own half and their own area and stuff. And yeah, I mean, one of the most underrated and kind of like stealthy signings that I've seen in recent years. Because I mean, like I said, I don't think anyone was expecting him to come in and be that good that quickly. I think that quickly he took a couple of months and then he really started to find the stride. But I don't think anyone was expecting the player we have now, and especially how versatile he's shown to be.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I think with Fabinho signing, it shows that it does take time to adjust to the Premier League. He took a few months till he got in the squad, and I remember being really like pleased with his signing, really excited because I thought, okay, here's a guy that has potential and he's good. But at the start of the season, and this I remember doing a podcast with Mick 2 years ago, at which point I said that Lucas Torreira looks better. and then
I remember it well.
Yeah,
it's been in my mind ever since.
Fabinho just bossed it, and now he's become what he's become, and it's just he is probably up there with Casemiro as best in the world in this position. Would you say, mate?
I think he's the best in the world, and I mean majorly biased. But what surprised me is that like no one knew about this transfer. Like Tim said, it just came out of the blue. It was kind of like we know who he is, obviously, but we haven't seen enough of him to think right he's going to come in and be as good as he was. I think it was like just looking now. I think it was 3 days after we lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League final. We announced that signing. That's like I think that's like just typical of Liverpool now. They want to any bad news. They want to just go right. We'll make a big signing and just kind of crack on and just crack on with things. But that was just like another. Like when you look back now, like the way he's played in midfield and the way he's adapted to being centre half isn't surprising. Just because, like Tim said, he is just so good at like getting the ball back and like his eye for a pass. I think like his pass for Mane against Man United, just that little dink over the top. Like that was just for me. That was a surprise at the time because I was like I wasn't sure if he was capable of doing those type of things. But when he's a bit in more of an advanced area, he's just so good with the ball in terms of recycling it and keeping us ticking over. But yeah, made up we got him. Like, and he's still pretty young as well. And if he can, it's interesting to see it would be interesting to see what his position is going to be in the future. Whether I know he's came out recently saying he wants to go back into CDM when Van Dijk's back, but he's been so good at centre back now that maybe he might change as he gets a bit older. It might be easier for him to drop in there. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, he's certainly shown that he's world class, a brilliant centre defensive mid, and he's so important to the side. But I'm scared to think of where we'd be right now if we didn't have Fabinho deputising at centre back. So yeah. I'm going to let Moxon wax lyrical about Fabinho's importance this season.
I think the versatility part of it has been the most important thing that Fabinho has brought, because we all know Klopp loves a versatile player, a player who can play in numerous positions, and it's especially useful considering he's a manager who prefers to. Obviously, we've got quite a large squad at the moment, but that's because we couldn't really shift some players in the summer. But he usually operates with quite a small squad, as long as the players within that squad are quite versatile. And obviously, Fabinho had played in that holding midfield role for Monaco, but previously he'd been a right back, and I believe to this day he still plays at right back for Brazil as well. So there was a little bit of sort of, well, is he going to be at right back or in midfield when we first signed? Obviously, he's played most of his time in midfield, but then this season, of course, when we've had pretty much no centre halves to play it with, Fabinho's done a magnificent job filling in there, and so we've got a man there that can play three positions, can do them very well, and that's the sort of player that Klopp loves and that Klopp needs within his team, especially the way that he likes to operate. So he's a perfect Jurgen Klopp player, and £40 million at the time looked like a lot for, as you say, someone who we weren't sure would even be a first team regular. But now it looks like an absolute steal.
It does completely. And now into the memorable moments. The goal against Man City sticks out, doesn't it?
It does, and another very similar one against, I think it was Palace, where he absolutely won. And in terms of actual technique as well, I think the Palace one was better. Obviously, the City one sticks out because it's a more important game. But the long-range screamer that he scored against Palace, I think that's one of the most technically, aesthetically pleasing long-distance strikes I've seen in a long while.
And I think Mick mentioned he was in love with that chip against United.
Yeah, well, I don't think he hasn't scored that. I think he's got 3, hasn't he? I think that, and then Dan's just mentioned 2 of them. I think the one's in Newcastle. I'm trying to remember what it was. Just look then. Newcastle. Can't remember what that goal was. Yeah. Anyway, that assist against Man United. I'm just trying to think what else.
I mean, being called a Hoover by Klopp is certainly up there.
Yeah, not the challenge on Suarez in the Barca game as well. Absolutely love that. Loved it.
Tim, can you think of anything else? Pluck anything from your
running over Daniel James. That is to this day one of my favourite challenges I've ever seen. And yeah, he's just a guy that continues to surprise and continues to show different levels that he just seems to be like, oh, just by the way, guys, I can hit it from 40 yards, and by the way, guys, I can chip over the entire defense and put Mane in on goal. Yeah, just wander off and recycle play. And yeah, he's been an absolute steal. And yeah, he's technically one of the best players on the team. And he, as he showed with Daniel James, he can do it physically too. So,
well, you have expertly teed up the next signing, not even knowing that you're doing so, because you've just said that Fabinho is technically one of the best in the team. And I'd argue that the next player, little old Shaq, I'd argue that technically he's up there as well. Now, we signed him for 13 mil from Stoke. I think Stoke were relegated at this point. Did we sign him from a relegated Stoke?
Yeah, he was. I think with 3 seasons in a row, we'd done Robertson, then Wijnaldum. Oh no, the other way around: Wijnaldum, then Robertson. Oh, I can't remember the timeline. Anyway, we did those 2, and then Shaqiri was the 3rd one.
Yeah, Wijnaldum's first, weren't he? Ronaldo, Robbo, and then Shaq.
When we signed Shaq, I was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be a squad player, but I was excessively excited because I thought this guy's got a little bit about him. And the fact that I'm sitting here a little bit upset that we haven't got to see more of him, I think just says that he's been a brilliant signing, hasn't he, Mick?
He has, and he was one of them players that we've been linked with for what seems forever, and then obviously went to Stoke, and then we were all like, why the fuck's he gone to Stoke for? And then obviously done so well there, then we signed him, and you've got hopes of him doing as well as he did there for us, and he has done well in parts, but it's the Naby Keita dilemma again. He's just not fit enough. Like, I know we're going to come to memorable moments, but you can't talk about Shaq without talking about the 2 goals against Man United. And that was just him all over. How good he can be when he's on it. He's just terrific. Like his eye for a pass. He's got a boss shot. I think he scored this season, didn't he, in a cup game? Can't remember who it was against now. Free kick, like top
Lincoln, wasn't it? Right,
Lincoln. Yeah. Well, that's just proved how the quality that he's got. But yeah, it's just a shame the way it's worked out for him. I imagine he'll probably go next summer. But I don't know when his contract's up. Is it next summer as well? I'm not sure.
I think he's got 2 years left.
Has he? But I imagine he'll probably go, like, because he's just not on the field enough, and I don't think when fully fit, he's part of the first team plans anyway. I mean, as a bench option, he's great, but he's not fit enough to be a bench option. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it might be we won't probably see him for that much longer. But yeah, he's been good. Like he was one of those signing that we needed, that someone who's going to come in and can competition for places. And I think there's just some players who can't do the pressing relentlessly all the time without the body going, nah, I can't do it. So I think he's just another one of them, unfortunately. But yeah, boss signing, I was made up we got him, but it's just not worked out the way we wanted it to, really.
I think the signing of Shaq, and we were talking about this the other day after the disappointment of was it West Brom? No, who did we play after West Brom? We just bottled it against
Newcastle.
The what he brings to the side is different to our other wingers in Mane and Salah, trying to say both on one there. He's just got something like just technically the ball at his feet. He's cute with the ball. He's got this eye for a pass. He's got the trickery. And we were saying after the Newcastle game that having seen him a bit earlier, maybe things would have been a bit different. I think the fact that we're still talking about Shaqiri, that he can add to this Liverpool team, just it shows, at least for me, that he can definitely cut it here. Tim?
I think what it comes to, I mean, I think it was Marx that said that Van Dijk, it's hard to think of a moment because he's so good all of the time. I think Shaqiri's actually not so much the opposite of that he's bad and then he just produces moments, but he's a very, very solid Premier League winger that can produce moments of magic. And I think that he's got quality in his left foot. Like you say, he's cute with the ball. He can pick out a pass. And, you know, he's been a solid addition to the squad. And considering that that's a squad that's won the Champions League, that's won the Premier League, and that is competing for another Premier League title, and when he is fit, is, you know, on the bench, and he is one of the first guys off of it, tells you all you need to know about the quality that he possesses, and he has the ability to change the game.
Agreed. Moxon, do you think that Shaq stays or leaves past the summer?
I think he probably leaves. But that is, again, he's quite similar in a sense to Navigator, in the sense that he's clearly got a lot of ability, but his body's just not been able to hold up long enough. But obviously people are harsher on Keita because of the price tag. I mean, Shaqiri was 13 million quid. He wasn't expected to be a first-team player anyway, so we're just like, oh, it's a shame. But obviously Keita gets more stick because we all had higher hopes. But I think a couple of years have referred to Shaqiri as a winger. I personally think he operates much better in a central role because of that vision and the creativity and the technical play that he's got. I think he operates much better in the middle with wider options and central options there for him, sort of as the more attacking player in a midfield trio. But that is why, as Mick said, his opportunities at Liverpool are always going to be limited just because we've got so many talented midfielders in the squad. Shaqiri is probably 6th, 7th in the pecking order. So even when fit, he's not really going to get an awful lot of game time. But it's a real shame because, as Tim said, all right, it might be doing a bit of disservice to refer to him as a moments player, but that's what he is really. He comes up and he produces big moments, big memorable moments. Obviously, the pre-season one against Man United, the overhead kick is one that really stands out. But for me, for a more recent one this season, that couple of games where he had, I think it was in the home game against Midtjylland where he came on and was it that game where he played that really cute through ball for Jota, or was that Atalanta? I can't remember which game it was.
I think that was West Ham.
Yeah, it was West Ham, actually. It was.
Oh, possibly. But yeah, that was just a superb little assist, that where he just played it through the crowd. You're right, yeah, it was West Ham. And I think it was against Midtjylland as well, where he came on and really gave us a bit of an attacking impetus against them when we were struggling to break them down at times. So, yeah, no, he's a really talented young player. And as you referred to at the beginning, he's probably one of our more technically gifted players. But sadly, again, his body hasn't been able to keep up with the demands asked of it in the system that we play. And unfortunately, he probably goes this summer just because he'll want to play in a team now at this stage in his career where he's getting more game time.
Okay. Well, memorable moments, we've kind of spoken about the friendly against United pre-season, the overhead kick, the goals in the league against United, the two that he comes on, scores 2, wins us the game. I'm surprised no one's mentioned the assist for Gini against Barca. That was
yeah,
he was part of that. I mean,
You nicked it.
Everton game as well, where he started, and I went to that game and I was like, fucking hell, what's the starting 11 doing against Everton? And then just absolutely assist for Mane and then a goal as well. He was boss that game as well. So he's got that quality. We know he's got that quality, but it's just, he's just not available often enough, unfortunately.
I remember I was at a work Christmas dinner for that Everton game when the lineup came in, and I was like, for fuck's sake, like, really? And then it was just like notification, goal. I was like, okay. Never again will I doubt Jurgen Klopp. Moxon, is it the United overhead kick or is it a different one for you?
I'll instead of the overhead kick, I'll say the two that he got in the 3-1 win over United, the one that sacked Mourinho. That's a big moment. He comes on and wins the game against our biggest rivals, sort of going, and then he gets Mourinho sacked 2 days later. That's not a bad impact off the benches.
So?
Yeah, I was going to go with the assist to Wijnaldum in the Champions League game, just because I think that sums him up. He has the technical ability to put the ball on the button, and that's exactly what he did. I think all Wijnaldum really had to do was steer it goal bound because he put it literally on his forehead. So,
well, that's Shaq, and I think up next, I think it's going to be a pretty quick one because there's not really much more you can say about this guy. But since Pepe Reina left, we've been crying out for a world-class keeper. And not only did we get a world-class keeper, we arguably got the best keeper in the world in Ali. 65 mil, 19th of July. I think Kiev made it very clear that we needed a new goalkeeper. Little did I think we were going to go out and get this guy who, he'd been brilliant at Roma, but I didn't realize he was as good as he was. Has anyone got anything to say? Anything?
I was just going to say, I'll happily hold my hands up and say that when we first signed him, I was worried just because it was a world record fee at the time. I know that sort of a week later, Chelsea broke that when they signed Kepa, which worked out really, really well for them. But it was a world record signing at the time. And as much as you say, he'd done a good job at Roma, I was looking at it thinking, is he really 65 million for a keeper? Like, is he actually that good? And I mean, obviously he is. He's answered that question. There were worries at the start, but it's just brilliant just to have a reliable goalkeeper for the first time in a long time. And it's not even since Reina left, because even in Reina's last couple of years on Merseyside, his reliability was sort of waning a little bit. But Alisson's had him and Van Dijk. I mean, that season where we conceded, what was it, something stupid like 18 goals in the Premier League all season or something daft like that. The one where we finished a point behind City. I mean, their impact on defence has been remarkable.
Mick?
Yeah, alongside Van Dijk as the most important signing we've made since the Premier League started, in my opinion. I'd rate it that highly because, like, Reina was good and all, like, first couple of years, and like Dan said, it went on the decline a little bit, and I think he was a good goalie with his feet. He was great with his feet, but there was times where he was just like, his confidence was shot, and you could see that. I think Alisson's that we've kind of grown away from these like players who are a bit weaker like mentally, whereas Alisson's like probably maybe our highest on that level in terms of mentality and getting over mistakes. I think he had a bit of a patchy start, didn't he, with his the Leicester game where he got robbed by Iheanacho and he scored. Then there was the chip against, was it Brighton or something, like you chipped it over someone's head and you're like, it's boss, but you're like, fucking hell.
When he was running towards him, didn't he?
Yeah, it was just like, it's good to see now, but like, at the time you're like, oh my God, just fucking hit it. And it's like, we've grown to love that, and he is just so good. There's times now where I'm still worried about he takes maybe a half a second on the ball too long for me sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, it's just like he nearly gets robbed of the ball sometimes. But in terms of an impact he's had since he came in, it's like it is like Van Dijk. You have to say less about him because it's like everything's been said. He is that good. He's the best in the world for me, and he's made us into what we are and made us win these trophies because the effect he's had on the defense, like him and Van Dijk, has just transformed it. And like when we've had to put up with Adrian in goal, and obviously Keller came in and done so well while Alisson was injured as well. But when he's not there, you feel that void massively. I think that's the biggest compliment you can pay him. He is that, like, the rock back there that we need. And like we said, when Van Dijk and Gomez got injured, as I think you said that, Matt, as long as we keep Alisson fit, we should be all right because he marshals that defence so well and is always talking to them, especially with, like, we've had Nat Phillips and Reece Williams back there who were babies. Well, obviously not Phillips as much as Reece Williams, but in terms of just guiding them along in the start of the Premier League journeys, he's been terrific. So yeah, I hope he stays at Liverpool for the rest of his career. I mean, I don't know, I think he's 26, 27, so he could play for another 10 years at Liverpool, and I hope it's at Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, ideally look at Buffon at Juve, so fingers crossed he sticks around as long. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that point because I'm still adamant that as long as we keep Alisson fit, we'll be fine. I mean, his leadership at the back, I think, was highlighted in the just before kickoff against Newcastle. The camera pan to Nat Phillips, and he was just telling Alisson, just speak to me, and I'll be fine. And the players know that themselves. So, Tim, is there anything to add on Alisson, or should we just skip to a memorable moment?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'd say is that he's a Rolls Royce of a player. You know, he's the top tier, the creme de la creme kind of guy for that position. And I think that one of the best things about him is that his positioning and his positional awareness is so good that it's rare that you see him make a save where you go, bloody hell, how's he done that? You know, he's not diving all over the place. Often, most of his work, he's catching the ball. You know, he's so good at getting down and parrying it to safety rather than into the line of strikers. I think against Newcastle, there was a good example of that where Callum Wilson was coming in on the back post and he just pushed it perfectly round the post and just out of his reach. And yeah, I mean, the Brighton game, the Brighton chip, all it told me was, oh, we've got a Brazilian in goal. You know, this is going to be fun. It's going to be nervy at times, but most of the time it's going to be fun. You know, he's a cheeky chap and he's pretty confident. So from coming from a keeper that was lacking confidence in almost every sense of the way, it was kind of nice to see a guy that came into the squad and say, listen, this is my role and I'm going to do what I want. You know.
Right. Moxon, moment.
I mean, it's hard to say. He's just been so reliable so often, but because you can't call him a perfect player. For example, I mean, his distribution can be a bit awry at times. I think there's a lot of occasions where he just kicks the ball straight out of play and stuff like that. But one of the weird criticisms that he got not so long back was that when he was facing penalties, he was useless. And then I can't remember if it was the tail end of last season or beginning of this season. He got a penalty, and I think it was against Chelsea, and Jorginho was stepping up, and everyone was all, "Oh, Jorginho never misses penalties. Alisson never saves penalties. It's a foregone conclusion." And then, just out of nowhere, he'd be getting all this criticism, and then Ali saves the pen and stands there as if to say, what other criticism you're going to throw at me? So I really liked that moment. So that one for me.
Mick, I'm assuming it's Napoli.
It is. I don't think you can look past that. Like, I think it was a last game with the group, wasn't it? 92nd minute, 1-0 up, and he just produces that save. And it comes back to what Tim's just said. People were saying it's like he's hit it straight at him, and it's a part like he has, but Alisson's in the perfect position. He's the right amount of distance out to be in proximity to close that ball down when it comes into the box. And it's just like a world-class save. And he's done that. I think there was another one against, what was it, Newcastle or something, where Al might be able to tell me in the comments because he's just like a footy guru. It was like flying top corner. He just claws it out. What game was that?
That was Burnley, because then he picked up the ball, launched it to Shaqiri on the right. Shaqiri picked out Salah and we scored on the counter. I've just thought that, and I was going to change mine and have that as my moment, but
that's the one. Yeah, because it's literally flying top corner. He comes out of nowhere, and like you said, Dan, we go up the other end and score. Just unbelievable. But yeah, I think it's got to be Napoli just for the occasion and how much it meant to us going through to the next round.
Yeah, no save, no Champions League. So
yeah,
is what it is. I'd say mine, just to make it different. The assist for Salah against United, and then I thought I was happy enough with the assist on its own, and the camera panned when Salah scored, and then I saw the first player on his knees was Alisson after just pegging it across the pitch, and just seeing all the players' faces just see like a black blur just shoot past them it was brilliant. So I'm gonna pick that one. All right, so these next couple of signings, I think we can shoot through quite quickly because either they haven't done much or they're just not very good. So I think first and foremost, Sepp van den Berg, the only one of four signings we made last summer. Jesus, I didn't think it was that many. One of four signings made last summer, clearly one for the future. I think he's made a handful of appearances at most. Again, really hard to judge because every time he's played with the kids, and that was mainly in the Carabao Cup run last season. Has anyone got anything to say about Sepp?
I was just going to say it's a little bit worrying for his future, really, that obviously we've had so many centre-back problems this year and we've had to rely on Nat Phillips and Reece Williams and stuff like that, but Van den Berg's been nowhere near the first-team picture, even amid all that. Yeah. I feel like that's a little bit worrying for his future.
I think that's a fair comment to make, because I hadn't really clicked until you mentioned it, but he's fit. He's not on loan. He's still at the club. Nat Phillips was gone. He was almost sent to the MLS. I think it was the MLS he was going to go to. Klopp made him stay. And Van den Berg's nowhere near the question. He hasn't even been brought up in any debates or nothing. So
yeah, I mean, he's got Phillips, Williams, and Kopite has even made an appearance, hasn't he, as well? So even just among the young defenders, that's three that look like they're ahead of him in the pecking order. So a little bit worrying for his future at the club, that's it.
Mick, do you think he's got a future, or do you think that it's cut losses? And
I think it's too soon. I think I'm just looking now. He's just turned 19 on the 20th of December. So he's 19. Like, I know Reece Williams is now in the squad playing a lot of games, and it's like he should be up there maybe alongside him. But I think from what I've seen, he looks okay, but he's got time on his side. There's no point getting rid of him. Right, we might as well keep him round. He's been at the club for a year now. So if we can't call on him yet, like we've got Reece Williams and we've got Nat Phillips, who if we're scraping the battle any more than that, we're going to be in deep trouble, I think. But I'd keep him around. I think he could be one of them who's just completely transforms into a player that we need at the right time. So I think if we keep him around for another year or two, and then we can make a decision, and there's no point making a decision on a 19-year-old kid at the minute.
I think what can be said, Tim, is that Klopp has bled through the likes of Mario Götze, Ilkay Gundogan, and Robert Lewandowski. So, I mean, he knows what to do with a youngster, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that strikes me from having watched him play the couple of times he's made appearances is that he's technically, a very good centre back. He's good at playing the ball around. He's comfortable under pressure and seems to make good decisions. The one thing that I would point to as the reason he's probably not made the squad is that he's just he doesn't look physically ready to play in the Premier League yet. I feel like Klopp looks at him and the way he's played, thinks, oh, he can play the ball around and stuff like that, but physically going to get bullied by the likes of Wood for Burnley and stuff. Like, he wouldn't stick him in against a guy like that because he'd just have him on toast, So yeah, certainly one for the future. There's no point in cutting losses or anything of the sorts, but certainly a player that needs to kind of build on his physicality if he's going to make a mark on the squad or even start to make appearances in the Premier League.
I mean, no point doing a memorable moment because I don't really think that there is one. Yeah, he's played a handful of games and that's about it. Next up, another youngster, and one that I am exceedingly excited to come back next summer. I really wanted to bring him up before, but I didn't. Held my nerve. I think this guy is the reason why we will let Shaq go in summer, and that's Harvey Elliott, who has been ripping it up at Blackburn. The kid he looks outstanding, doesn't he, Dan?
Yeah, so, I mean, he's still only, I think he turned 18 in April, I think it is. So he's still under 17, I think, which is ridiculous considering he's already scored a handful of goals, got a handful of assists in the Championship with Blackburn, where everyone saw him go there. And obviously he'd had a bit of controversy on social media, and he's that sort of player he's got lots of nice little tricks and flicks and stuff like that. So a lot of people were worried that he was going to go to the Championship and get smashed by, a big 35-year-old heady kick-it defender. But no, I mean, he's clearly done really, really well so far with Blackburn. And yeah, it's exciting to see sort of what shape he's going to be in when he comes back next summer, and whether or not he's going to be in the first team picture.
Tim?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like most about the kid is the fact that he's got a bit of bite to him. He's seemingly super competitive. He's not afraid to get in people's faces, and like he reminds me a bit of Andy Robertson in that sense, in his mentality. He's not scared of anything, of any moment, of anyone, and on top of that, he just looks immensely talented. And a steal from Fulham.
Yeah, Mick.
Yeah, he's going to, like when we were talking about Shaq, I was going to bring up this guy, but obviously I knew we were going to come to eventually. Like, I think he got another assist for Blackburn today, so that's 6 assists, 4 goals, which is just like, I don't know how many games he's played, but like 10 goal involvements for a 17-year-old kid. And when you hear Tony Mowbray speak about him, when he says like, we just say to the lads, give the ball to Harvey Elliott. That's how much trust's putting it into his hands, into his feet in the Championship, which is a great league, is huge. And I think he's going to be, for me, I'm so excited about him. I think he's going to honestly be so good. He's the perfect player. I think, like Dan said, like Shaqiri's better in a central role. I think Harvey Elliott probably is as well. I think you might see him on like the side of a 3 in midfield. I mean, he's got the tenacity and the work rate. He's got the creativity. He's pace-wise, he's all right, I think, but he's still got so much more development to do. Like, he's probably not even fully grown yet. He's not even 18 yet, is he? So he could properly fill out and get some strength to him, and even make himself even a bit quicker as well. So the old cliche, but the world is Harvey Elliott's oyster, honestly, because he can be so good. He's so good now, but it's scary how good he could be in a couple of years. I can't wait.
I'm very, very excited to see come back to Liverpool, because given the way he's playing at the moment, especially if we let Shaq go, he's one that will I think maybe not happily, but he'll sit on the bench, he'll take his time, and then he'll take his chance. And I'm excited to see him back in a red shirt. But up next, it's an interesting one. We got him on a free, bit of a last minute one, because Mignolet was supposed to stay, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm leaving. And you see in one of those Liverpool documentaries that Klopp's scouring the goalkeeper market, and all of a sudden Adrian pops up, and it's a weird one because I want him nowhere near the team at the moment, and he is nowhere near the team. He's just been usurped by Kelleher as the number 2. But given that he came on a free, he was integral to the start we had last season, wasn't he, Mick?
Yeah, he was, but it's difficult when you talk about Adrian, because he came in and done so well against Chelsea, didn't he? Won us the Super Cup, but in terms of like the mistakes he's made, like was it Atletico, and then this season Aston Villa, where he's played an absolute hospital ball to Joe Gomez, where he's just put him in so much shit, and then it's just his distribution really that lets him down. And I think his positionally as well, like I think some of the goals against Atletico, he just wasn't in the middle of the goal. I think the one where he kicks it out and then they score off it, he's just literally at the side of the goal, and he's basically saying to them, go on, I've just hit it into that corner where I'm not guarding. And it's just like, yeah, well, now the Kelleher has come through, and Kelleher is getting games as well. Like, it's definitely the end for him. I think he's had his time. He had his shot at a big club, and it hasn't worked out for him. I think it's like your favourite Matt, Loris Karius, in a way, that he's not cut out for the big leagues, big clubs. I mean, in terms of mentality wise, because he's just not quite there. But yeah, I've got no ill will towards him. Obviously, the Let's Go game, I wanted to absolutely hunt him down and batter him, but apart from that, it's what can you do? He done a job at the time, and that's all you can ask for him. And he won us a trophy as well. So,
I mean,
yeah.
that's exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head, because when Adrian came in, we already let Karius go on loan. We were prepping for a season with Mignolet as backup, which very good backup to have. And all of a sudden, you put in a situation where Mignolet leaves, the kids aren't ready to step up to be back up to Alisson, and you have to go out and find a goalkeeper. And we could have done a lot worse than Adrian, couldn't we, then?
Yeah, I mean, he was an experienced keeper at the time, plenty of Premier League experience as well, which is always important. Free, obviously, is never a bad thing, because it means that even if it does go wrong, you've not lost out financially. But I feel it's important to sort of address the amount of stick that he's got on social media, because there's nothing wrong with obviously criticising players' performances and if they make a mistake and stuff like that. But some of the horrific stuff that's been directed towards Adrian in the last year or so is just completely not acceptable, really, and it's not in keeping with what Liverpool Football Club is supposed to be about. You know, that whole message of you never walk alone and stuff like that. But it seems to get forgotten a little bit with Adrian, I think. But I mean, don't get me wrong. There's no denying that he's simply not good enough for the job, and that he will go when his contract expires in the summer, and that'll be that. But he was thrust in. He's played more than he was expected to, which. Yeah, it's just one of those things. If Alisson gets an injury, that's why you want a decent backup there, isn't it? But he's played when he's needed to. He's sadly not quite been as useful as we'd all hope he'd be. As you say, he's now been usurped by Kelleher. He's not even second choice anymore, really. So in the summer we'll shake hands and go our separate ways, and it'll be good for everyone, I think.
Obviously, the mistakes haven't helped his cause. But Tim, do you think part of Adrian's downfall is how good Alisson is, and ultimately that's the guy he's going to get compared to when he steps in between the sticks?
I'm not so sure, because I think that he's just one of those guys where, I mean, we've talked about in the last couple of podcasts how lucky we are as Liverpool fans at the moment because of the level of excellence that we have come to expect over the last 2-3 years. 1 Premier League loss a season, 2 Premier League losses a season, 3 Premier League losses a season. And when you look at our team, you can argue that we have maybe 4 or 5 players in positions that are the best in the world at their position. I mean, you can certainly look at the likes of Alisson, Trent, Robbo, and Van Dijk solely from the back line and to say, well, they're probably the best at their respective position. And having seen what Adrian was capable of the previous Alisson was capable of the previous season, and then having Adrian come in and actually start very, very well. I think that, he filled in for, I think, was it 10 weeks in the Premier League or 10 games for Alisson because of an injury. And he was very, very good. I think he saved the penalty in that, was it a saving penalty? But he kept a couple of clean sheets, saved a bunch with his feet. And, actually got off to life at Liverpool pretty well and was quickly becoming a club favourite because he was filling in. You're thinking, oh, we've got a really good backup here that's Premier League proven, and he's week in, week out. And then he made a mistake against Atletico Madrid, and it shot his confidence. He's never been the same since, and he always looked fairly good prior to that. And again, similar to Karius, just lights a bit too bright, and kind of foiled him a bit and has ruined his time at the club. So, and unfortunately, as good as he was at the beginning of the season, just like Karius, I mean, we've talked about, he was good for a stretch and all that kind of stuff, and so was Adrian, but he will forever be remembered for his mistakes.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, especially the thing of the light shining too bright, because he made a mistake earlier last season against Southampton, gave the ball right to Danny Ings. But we won that game, so it's quite easy for him to put it behind him. But it was very clear that we were on track to beat Atletico. We were through, and then he happened, and there's no hiding from the fact that we didn't progress through further into the Champions League because of him. And I guess that's just stuck with him, just like Karius is probably stuck with him. So although it's very easy to say a negative highlight of Adrian, let's try to keep it positive. And for me, I think everyone's is the Super Cup, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even that he probably ruined a little bit when he did that photo shoot back at the stadium with all of his medals. Like I said, the abuse and everything on social media is obviously massively unacceptable. But he does seem to have a bit of an ego as well, which doesn't really help him, I don't think. But anyway, let's move on.
Moving on, someone that we're probably not going to talk about. Well, I've got nothing to say. He didn't make a single appearance for Liverpool. It's Andy Lonergan. I think we signed him as a backup when Alisson was out and Adrian was thrust in, and we had the kids were injured, Alisson was injured, we needed someone, and all of a sudden Andy Lonergan, who'd just been released by Bolton in League One, was sat on the bench of the soon-to-be Premier League champions. And now he has a Premier League, I don't think he hasn't got a medal, but he can say he's a Premier League champion. That's very weird.
It's madness.
Yeah, it'll have been a hell of an experience for him in the twilight of his career. But also, I mean, obviously he didn't do anything on the pitch, but all of his years of experience would have been really useful on the training ground for the likes of Queen Kelleher and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a fad, really, wasn't it, of getting filling out your homegrown slots in your team with a fourth choice goalkeeper sort of thing. So we had Andy Lonergan at Man City. I think they've still got Scott Carson. Man United got Lee Grand, didn't they, and stuff like that. It was a bit of a fad for a while, and we got ours and Andy Lonergan. And yeah, he had a fun year. He was in a Premier League winning side, and like I say, his experience will have been helpful for the youngsters, but didn't do anything on the pitch, didn't play a game, so not much more to say.
I mean, he was the first player that I transfer listed in my FIFA career mode, but we'll leave that as it is. Next time I'll come to you first up. Thoughts on Takumi Minamino? Signed him 1st of January last year, 7 million. Snip, regardless of how he has performed, I'm still saying that is a snip. But it must be said, we haven't seen the Taki that ripped us to shreds, have we?
No, and I mean, we've talked about him a lot on this pod because he's from the games this season alone. It was nice to see him get that goal against Palace. That was huge, especially when everyone was big question marks about why he was starting, and he proved them all wrong by playing really well. And he's been good when called upon this season. Most of the time, there's been times where he's looked out of his depth a little bit, physically against the bigger players, where he tries to shrug people off, and he just hasn't got the strength or the stature to do that. But in terms of what he brings, he's a great option. It's like Shaqiri in a way. Like, we can't, for the price we've paid, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out because we paid so little for him, and he's still young enough to make an impact on this squad. And the thing is, like, when you've got players on the bench all the time and they don't come on, people are like, well, why are we keeping them round? Well, we're keeping them round because if we get injuries or if we need some creativity off the bench, we need players like this in the squad to make competition for places. Like, his versatility, he can play pretty much anywhere. Front three, could play on the side of a three in midfield. He's good on the ball. He's quick. He's got a good shot, good pass. He is like a perfect Klopp player. He just needs a bit more time, I think, in a Klopp system to learn it fully. And I think we'll see the best of him.
I think we'll see the best of him still. And he is very versatile, but I suppose that could be somewhat detrimental as well, because I'm not sure that we know what his best position is. He's played on the wing. He's played in the Firmino role. He's played in midfield as well. Tim, where do you think he's best suited?
I actually think he's probably best suited just behind the front three, to be honest. I think that he's good at conducting play. I don't think that he is quick off the mark, but I don't think he's got the speed to go around players on the wings and be putting in crosses and stuff. I think his best attribute is the fact that he's got a great vision and he can slide in passes, and his link up play with, I mean, we saw it a couple of times in the preseason with Firmino. It's fantastic. He's great with the ball at his feet. He's got great control, and he's never falling over himself or anything like that. But yeah, he's another guy that's technically ready to be a Premier League player, and a very good one at that. But I think someone who needs to figure out how to get around the physical aspect, because he's not a big bloke. He's not very wide. He doesn't weigh a ton. So he's probably just adjusting, because, again, you're not really going to get a brand more physical in Europe than Premier League football. So yeah, as Mick has said, a great guy to have on the bench, someone that can who can produce a moment and open up a defence. And like you say, I think that the more he's shown his face in games this year, the more we're starting to see kind of shades of the Taki that we saw in the Champions League.
Yeah, I agree. When he signed Dan, he's been a year now. When he signed, a few people labelled him Bobby's replacement. That's not entirely true. He's kind of become more Bobby's backup, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, there was a sense that he would become this, talking about finding the best position for him, that he would be sort of Bobby's understudy for a few years and then hopefully take over in the future. And I just don't think he's got obviously we've talked a lot about he's not a very physical, strong player or anything like that, which is part of Bobby's job, because he does have to come hold off the defenders around him and play the ball as he sees fit. But I don't think it's weird it's hard to describe it really, because he is decent technically, but Bobby's just got that magic of when he comes deep and collects the ball, he knows instantly. He's thought 3 moves ahead, and he knows exactly where Mane is going to be, exactly where Salah is going to be on that side, exactly where the midfielders running through are going to be. And he's like a chess player for me, though. He's already sort of assessing all the outcomes and where people are going to be and stuff like that. And I don't think Minamino. I mean, that sort of thing comes with time and years of playing with the same group of players, obviously, and Minamino hasn't had that time yet. So whether or not that comes over time, I don't know. But I agree in that I think that for Minamino, for now, his best place to play is behind the front three. Because he does have a decent pass on him. He does have the vision. He can pick out people. But, I mean, as you say, you've got to be kind of a strong player to play in the Premier League, really, because it is a physical league. But at the same time, obviously, strength isn't everything, and being big and weighing a lot isn't everything. Otherwise, I'd be a 30-goal a season striker. But it's Minamino. He doesn't need that, but I think Klopp, his challenge and the coaching staff's challenge is to find a role for Minamino that doesn't require him to be strong and hold people off. That he can just be that midfield orchestrator almost.
Definitely. Going to memorable moments, I'm gonna throw left field. I'm gonna say my memorable tacky moment is when he ripped us to shreds at Anfield, because that is the tacky that I am very excited and hopeful that we see. Anyone else?
He's not someone who's really had many moments. Yeah, obviously, as Mick said, the Palace goal was really nice, and it was good to see him finally get off the mark for the club. I think that was pretty much a year to the day since he signed or something like that, wasn't it? Or it was announced that he was going to be signing, but no, he's not really a moments player. He's yet to really come up with any big memorable things for the club. But every time when he comes on from the bench, plays 20 minutes, 30 minutes, he's never bad. He never does anything wrong. He keeps play ticking over, and that's sort of been his role so far.
I agree. Let's move on to the next one. And unfortunately, not much to say about this lad, apart from the fact that he's another one that's fallen to the injury crisis that has become this season. It's Kostas Tsimikas, 11.7 million. Decent looking left back. Cover for Andy Robbo. Definitely got a bit about him going forward, which is vital for the way that we play. And unfortunately, just another one that's succumbed to injury, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think he's had COVID at one point as well. So, yeah, I mean, clearly a promising player. I mean, he seems to be a nutmeg specialist. I've seen some of his highlights from his previous tenure. And he seems to really enjoy a nutmeg, which will be fun. But I mean, one of the things that I think it's benefited is the fact that it's pushed Andy Robertson, and I think that Andy Robertson, who's never really had to look at a left back at the club and go, all right, well, here's a challenger for my spot, has really pushed him in the off season, and I think we've seen a change in Robertson's play. I think he's stepped up yet another level this season. I think he's arguably been our best player. And I think part of that is because now we have a left back at the club. And if he starts performing, there'll be talk. And I think Andy Robertson has done everything in his power to silence that immediately. But yeah, I think he's a good pickup. And it just means that Milner won't have to play left back if Robertson gets injured, So It is another good signing to strengthen a position that is always a just in case. So
another clog to the machine, as it were, Moxon.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the exact same thing that Tim's just said, really, in that we can't really comment on Tsimikas' impact on the pitch because he's not really been on it much. But the fact that Robertson, this has probably been his best season so far in a Liverpool shirt, I would say. So, I mean, that might be a coincidence, of course, but I would prefer to look at it as for the first time, really, since Robertson, because even though we had Moreno, he wasn't really competition to Robertson once he'd wrestled the shirt off him, was he? But for the first time since then, at least, Robertson's actually got bona fide competition at left back, and possibly that might be pushing him on, and if it is, brilliant.
Mick, I'm going to skip coming to you because I don't think there's much more that can be said on Tsimikas, but I'm going to give you the honour of waxing lyrical about the next signing. 27.4 million, European champion from Bayern Munich. This was rambling on all summer. It finally happened. What was your thought process like when the deal was getting done? Were you worried it wasn't going to happen? Were you just convinced he was going to sign? Where was your head at? Mick, you muted.
Fucking hell. Fucking school play out of there.
Thing for like a year, still muting yourself.
Fuck's sake. I knew that was going to happen to me once. It happened to Jay a couple of times, but not me. I knew it had happened to me, but I wanted to have a little cough, and I thought I can't do it while someone's speaking. Anyway, yeah, I was super, super excited, obviously. I was worried that it wasn't going to... At first, I thought, I don't know if it's going to actually... I don't know if it's an actual viable option, because I didn't know if he would move from Bayern. Then I was like, he's definitely coming. I was convinced. Then I thought, oh shit, he might go to Man United because we're not going to strike a deal fast enough. And then we get him, and it's just like that game against Chelsea where he comes on for that 45 minutes. You just like, you'd appreciate just how good he is at just passing the ball. It's not even the way like the pass. It's just the way he kicks the ball. Like I've never seen a player kick the ball as nicely as he does since maybe Xabi Alonso. Just the way he caresses it is just, yeah. I wish he'd caress me. I just love him. I absolutely fucking love him. I do. He's just amazing. He's just like, it's just a shame. Like the Everton game, he was great as well. He should have had talking about assists of assists. He should have had one for that goal with Hendo's goal where he assists Mane. And that through ball is just like, when you see a freeze frame of that pass, like the ball for Mane shouldn't even be on really, but the way he hits it into him with that snap that he always hits it with, like perfect weight and direction. Yeah, I just wish that goal was stood. And then obviously when he comes back as well, he came back at the weekend against Newcastle, and even in those 20 minutes, he was our best player for me. He was just winning every ball in the air. I think he won every aerial duel, completed every long pass and every short pass, and his passing accuracy was like 92% or something like that in like 20 minutes. He was just, yeah, it's one of those signings that when it happens, you obviously know how good he is, but when he steps onto the field and he shows how good he is, it just, you appreciate how good he is, and how good he can be for us is scary. Like he's for me, he's probably, when he's fit, like he's got, especially now that we're struggling with bit creativity wise, he's got to be first name on the team sheet in terms of in the midfield, because we need that at the minute, because we are lacking a little bit, especially playing Southampton on Monday. But in terms of the whole picture, made up, we got him absolutely made up, and it still surprises you, because I don't know if it's just me being like used to Liverpool not being very, very good, or being good for a bit and then being shit again. When you sign these players when you're already great, is something we haven't done. Like, we've always had great players and they've left for pastures new to go and win trophies. We've won trophies and then brought this guy in who's came from Bayern, who just won the Champions League. He's come to us to want to win the Premier League, and I just hope we can do it for him.
Yeah, I mean, what I could say about Thiago is that our midfield before him, in my opinion, was already world class. But this guy's a level above, and everyone knows about Thiago and knew about him beforehand. Everyone knew he was world class, but I didn't really focus on him. I didn't really just look at him. But then, because of all the rumors that were happening, and because of COVID, the Champions League that happened late, it gave me a chance to watch the Champions League and just watch Thiago, and I was just kind of blown away at how good this guy actually was, what he could do with the ball, some of the balls that he could give. He was just immense. And I mean, is there another word to describe him other than immense, Moxon?
Not really, no. I don't think so anyway. Klopp has built this club, built the team that he's got by mostly by taking players that aren't necessarily regarded as world-class stars and then turning them into exactly that. But with Thiago, it's the opposite. He's a bona fide, just genuine world star talent who has chosen to move to Liverpool, which says everything about where the club is at the moment in terms of its stature around the world. And yeah, his qualities. He's a winner. Barcelona and Bayern Munich. I'm pretty sure he's the most decorated player currently playing in the Premier League in terms of trophies, club, team, and individual awards. And there's not an awful lot to say about him other than the fact that he's just genuinely one of the best players at doing the simple things that I've ever seen. Like, he can play, anyone can play a 10-yard pass, but the way that he does it, he does something simple like that, and you sit there with your jaw on the floor. And like I say, it's something simple like a 10-yard pass. It's just the way that he does it, just the carelessness, the ease that he just does these things. It's I could talk about him all day, so I'm going to shut up. But no, he's amazing. He's going to help push this team to the next level, I think.
We need to do a Thiago pod, I think, just to just analyze.
All on together.
Yeah. Just analyze every header, every pass, and every touch, and we'll just do like a watch along, like.
Just on his quality now. As a pure footballer, not position wise, just as a footballer in general, has he come in and just automatically become the best footballer that we have?
It really is, because for me, he is what Van Dijk to defense is to a midfield. What Van Dijk is to a defense to a midfield. He is the top of the range, the most complete midfielder I've seen for a while. Can play any pass with either foot, makes everything look easy. If he could play it feels like he could play any pass he wanted, first time, one touch, and put it on the button. I mean, it feels like he could play centre defensive midfield and clean up. It feels like he could play the number 10 role and pick any lock that a defence, provided him. Is he the best footballer on the field in terms of a complete footballer? I'd still have Van Dijk there. I think that you could stick Van Dijk in any position and he'd just be superb. But I mean, what a signing! And considering that I know he's an older player in regards to world football these days, but he's pure quality, and he's showing it every time he stepped on a field, And the thing that excites me most, and the thing I'm looking forward to most in terms of him wearing a red shirt, is the fact that he's hit a couple of volleys now that have fallen out to him, and every time he hits it, he catches it perfectly. And you just think, God, that's flying into the top corner. And every time the keeper scrambles, so it's not like the keeper's waiting to catch it. The keeper's scrambling because he knows it's flying into the top corner. It's hit a defender. And I can't wait till one of them flies into the top corner and you just go, bloody hell, this guy is ridiculous.
I'm going to skip the memorable moments because he unfortunately hasn't been able to play that much. I'll say that the memorable moment for Thiago for me would be my reaction at seeing him in the squad for Newcastle. The noises that came out of my body when I saw that lineup with him on the bench were not right.
I thought you were gonna say the liquids that came out of your body there.
Moving on. Let's move on. Come on.
Last and not least, again, Fabinho-esque. No rumours apart from the night before, when all of a sudden you see on Paper Talk that Liverpool are in talks with Diogo Jota, and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. No, we're not. And the next day, boom, Diogo Jota, 45 million. At the time, everyone thinking, oh, he's overpriced. I mean, what a few months can do to change your opinion on someone being overpriced or not. Tim, I'll come to you first.
Well, my first reaction was, oh, for God's sake, we're doing it again. And Mick touched on this, that we're at the very top now, and instead of going out and buying the best player available, we'll just settle and we'll become an average squad over time. Because I was like, why haven't we gone out and signed Timo Werner? The guy's talking about us in the media. This guy's world class. He's proven on the Champions League stage, and we've just settled for a guy who's been good for Wolves, but he's not shown that he's a spectacular world class talent. And then he played, and I was like, well, do you know what? I'm actually kind of glad that he's played and that we signed him, because he's for all that it's worth, he's been far better than Timo Werner has been for Chelsea. So yeah, I'm sitting here, with a foot in my mouth, because he's been absolutely superb, and he's absolutely warranted the talk of him breaking into our front three.
Mick.
Yeah, but same. Really, I thought the whole flirtation with Timo Werner was the worst kept secret. We all thought we're definitely getting him. We spoke to Jan Fjortoft, and he was like, "Yeah, he's definitely coming, guys. Don't worry." And then there was so much smoke that you thought it's definitely happening, and then he goes and signs for Chelsea, and you just like absolutely like at the time we were all like, I was heartbroken. I was like, oh fucking hell, like he could be the like what Jota is doing now. I thought he would have that same impact for us, but I'm glad that it's happened the way it has, because he's just came in. I think, just having a look on Wikipedia now, 9 goals in 17 appearances. That's ridiculous. Like, I think it was a trick against Atalanta, weren't it, where he was just absolutely on fire, and he's been terrific. Like, he is a genuine contender to come in and start when he's back fit at the end of January, because he is that good. And I think in some of these games we've been playing recently against West Brom and Newcastle, he could have made a big impact in those games, because his ability to carry the ball and make those runs in behind, he could have been a real weapon for us. But yeah, what a signing that was then, as Curtis Jones would say.
Fastest player to reach 9 goals for Liverpool as well. I mean, Mick just called him a weapon. Any other words, Martin?
A weapon.
It's just, for me, surprising. As obviously we all thought, oh, finally we've got decent backup to the front three, but as has already been touched on, more than backup, he's made a case in these early few months that he's able to compete with the front three. So yeah, it's still early days, and there's not an awful lot to say other than he's had the perfect start to his Liverpool career.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say, so I think we'll leave it there. Yeah, I mean, out of all the signings that we've discussed over these last 2 podcasts, I can't really think of many flops. And don't say Loris Karius, because I argued my little heart out for him. All right, so Mick, shut up. I think that's it for us. It's coming up to an hour, just past an hour 15 minutes. I think you guys watching need to stick around, because Mick, you're up pretty soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm joined by Dan Hargraves from the Saints View to do a little preview of Monday, so that'll be good. Thanks to everyone who jumped in on the comments as well. So we've got Silver Hoff, nice one. We've got someone there, you think you know her, Dan? I'm not sure if you know her.
Oh, I don't know. Rings a bell.
She's got some
I'm not sure.
She's got some fajitas waiting there, I think. I think she wants you to get there.
I'm going to be dashing in a minute. Get in.
Yeah, nice one to Al, of course. What a guy. Also, we've got Ravi. Cheers, fella. We've got Mike. Who else have we got? The rest, just me, just chatting shit to everyone's. But yeah, thanks to everyone for jumping on. Thanks for Matt for doing a little hosting session, and we'll see you in a bit.